Look, a strong presence, right, brings honor and respect, but unfortunately, too much of it has a paradoxical effect. It has a reverse effect. It actually spoils them. It's like eating too much red meat is not good for you. The more people see you, the less they start thinking about you, the less they start fantasizing about you. And you gotta understand, for somebody to desire you, desire comes with a fantasy, right? You can't desire something that you already have. To desire something, it has to not be there, and you have to imagine it in your mind so that the brain creates a desire, and then it'll release dopamine and make and create excitement and energy to make that thing happen. And so the more dopamine your brain releases because you're not there, the more they start thinking of you in more vivid and strong, in more vivid images and more vivid videos. By the way, check out my new channel, Professor Alex. It's a channel that I created where I talk about spirituality, self-help, and topics like the ones you see here. It's completely different from the men's channel. So click on that right now, and there you'll be able to get 3 or 4 videos per week that you will never find on this channel. Okay, subscribe right now or else I'm closing it. In their minds. And that makes the person want to bridge the gap between fantasy and reality. And that gap creates desire. That's just how that works. Too much closing of that gap removes the fantasy aspect, removes the desire aspect that makes the brain hype you up in the person's mind. So that's why you need space to make this process happen on its own. If you're there too much, let me tell you something. When you're in their presence, all you got to make sure to do is make sure that you guys feel some chemistry, right? And you're gonna notice because he or she makes a lot of eye contact, right? He or she tries to be very physically close to you. They're not always trying to do stuff with you, but they're physically close. He or she will want to spend time with you, doing simple things with you. So and above all, make eye contact, right? You gotta make sure you make eye contact. So for all of our autistic followers, you have to make eye contact. Why is that? Well, whenever you recall the memory of somebody that you spent time with, what you tend to notice is that the memory of imagining a lover or somebody that you like is usually with eye contact. If you're reminiscing through lust, someone in the past, you may not think about their eyes. You're gonna think about that ass. You're gonna think about how they looked and stuff like that. The focus of the imagination is gonna be more on their bodies, right? But if you're recalling a lover that you liked and that you guys had genuine chemistry, one of the things that will happen is that the way the brain is gonna recall them, it's gonna recall them by putting most of the emphasis of the mental picture on the eyes, the mouth, and then the nose, and then everything else will be sharp, but it won't be as sharp, and the sharpness will diminish. Like from the sharpest will be in the eye, and then it'll diminish the further it goes. But the difference is this: is that the image in the mind is still going to be colorful, vibrant, and big, and with an emotional impact. But the most vibrant and the sharpest part of that imagination is going to be in the eyes. And also, the eyes is the one thing that has the most contrast, right? Out of all the body, the eyes has the most contrast. It has the whitest part and the blackest part. So it's obvious that whenever you are imagining your lover, you're going to imagine the eyes. Now, the mouth is the next thing that has a lot of contrast, right? So you're going to first imagine the eyes, and then you're going to imagine the mouth, because the mouth has a lot of contrast. It has the teeth, and it has the blackness on the inside, right? So those are the two things that you tend to focus on when you're having those mental images. So that's why it was very important that when you're in their presence, that you have those moments of eye contact and silence, because that's what they're gonna recall in your absence. But unfortunately, too many people don't understand this, and they suffocate their lovers with too much attention, right? A person's absence enhances their presence, but after a while, it diminishes once you know too much of the person. Your presence suppresses imagination. When you're there, when you're in their presence, it suppresses imagination. So what does that do? It suppresses desire. The more you imagine your lover, the more you want them. The less you imagine them, the less you want them. So when there's no imagination, there's no surprise, no mystery, no ambiguity that makes people want to see you more. It's how that works. So what people want is their imagination to be stimulated. So mix truth with fantasy. They want to desire something. So that's why and it's actually even better if when you're in the presence, you dress in a way that represents a stereotype. Don't just dress in a banal way, right? Dress in a way that communicates a stereotype, right? For example, when you see me, I represent something in culture, right? I represent, spiritual, hipster, a little bit of hood. I'm not from the streets, but, a little bit of unhingedness. And that does activate people's imagination because there is an archetype. You could think of Jimi Hendrix. You could think of what's that black guy that plays the guitar? That he was from the 90s. He kind of looks like me. He's better looking, by the way. What's his name again? Lenny Kravitz. There's an archetype to me. What you want is to have a physical archetype. Look like something in culture that's elevated, and literally you could just dress it, right? So for example, for me, when women imagine me in their minds, this is more exaggerated in their minds. Like my archetype in their minds is more exaggerated, and they fall in love with that exaggerated version of me, right? It doesn't mean that they're not falling in love with me, right? Because eventually the honeymoon period will go down and all the smoke is going to clear away, and if they actually like me, they're going to stay, but this is the process. This cannot happen if you're always there, if you're always suffocating them. Even if they're your neighbor, you have to put limits on how often they see you, because if you are always there, how many couples broke up because of the pandemic? And it's not that the coronavirus made people not love each other. No, it's the fact that they were always there that caused the conflict, right? So remember, the more distant an object is, the more they want it. People want you more when you're not there. People want you less when you're there. It kind of sucks, but just imagine any person that you were dating. You usually had the strongest desire when they were not there. And once they're there, it's not that you don't want them, but that the desire goes down because it finally fulfilled its purpose. It bridged the gap between imagination and reality. And now you just appreciate them with your bonding hormones. But before that, it was the dopamine that was inspiring you and creating those mental images to want to see them. This applies to everyone in life, to everything in life. If you don't apply this, what would happen is that people would not appreciate you for who you are. They're not going to respect you that much. They're not going to treat you with the love and respect that you feel like you deserve. And that's because you're always too present in their life. Notice how people treat you when you're away after a few weeks or months. Notice their reaction. If you want to get more of that, learn to be alone. Learn to give people more space than necessary, because that's when they love you. But if you are just always suffocating them, they're gonna fall out of love with you. They're gonna get tired of you. They may not tell you now, but over time, the debt is adding up in interest rate. And one day they're gonna wake up and just be tired of you, just be bored of you. We just bored them too much with our presence.